So, good afternoon, guys. Now, right, yesterday we were discussing about pathological changes that occur in rheumatic heart disease. There are a bunch of changes that we were discussing. The primary ones that we discussed initially were presence of Ascough bodies. I've showed you what Ascough bodies look like. There'll be focal regions of fibrinoid necrosis that occur, right, typically in your myocardium. Now, other than that, you'll be able to see transient fibrinous pericarditis, wherein you'll be able to see fibrous pericarditis, that is a transient form, and those in turn may contain Ascough bodies. And we discussed small beady fibrinous vegetations called verrucae, the small bead-like structures that are present in your mostly in the mitral valve. The image that I showed you was one for mitral valve, right? Small infective lesions, BD lesions that are seen, vegetation specifically. They are basically small pockets of growth, okay, bacterial growth. That is a vegetation. Whenever I talk about vegetation, it basically means that it is a small area where bacteria are proliferating. It might be bacteria, mostly it is bacteria, sometimes it can be viruses as well. As I told you, those will in turn cause something called inflammatory valvulitis, where it will start inflaming the valve that is involved. In this case, mitral valve is involved, so it will cause mitral valvulitis. Right, so blood will not be able to move in easily from your left atrium to left ventricle. Now, other than that, what will happen is your leaflets will thicken. So, fibrous thickening of your leaflets will occur in this. So, continuing from yesterday, fibrous thickening of leaflets, right? So if we take the mitral valve like this, and let's suppose this is the one second, let's suppose this is the mitral valve and you have the commissure here, and this is the commissure, right? So you have a bicusp, right, two cusps, and this is not exactly, this is an attached line, so I'm representing it as a dotted line, but this is one leaflet, okay, this is the other leaflet. Okay, or cusps, both of them refer to the same thing. Now, if I talk about tricuspid valve, 3 leaflets रहते हैं उसमें, ठीक है, that is the leaflet. What happens is fibrous thickening of leaflets occurs, in the sense that because of inflammatory damage there, what will end up happening is those leaflets will have fibrin being accumulated there, and they will become thicker. Once they become thicker and fibrotic, see, fibrin is something that will be involved in your scar tissue. Now, if you have ever seen scar tissue, you know how rigid and thick it will be. Something similar will happen in your leaflets. See, normally your leaflet should be nice and flexible and all, but whenever fibrous thickening occurs, they will not be able to open and close properly. So that problem will occur in rheumatic heart disease. Other than that, something called bridging fibrosis will occur across valve commissures. So I'll show you an image of that. It will cause a what do you call fish mouth like appearance. So basically a bridging fibrosis basically means that fibrosis is starting here. So see this in pink, okay, right. So imagine fibrosis starting here. This fibrosis is going like this, and the fibrosis moves like this. Please feel free to ask me doubts at any point. Stop me and ask me doubts if you are not understanding anything, okay? Or if you want me to repeat anything. Now, what happens in such a fibrosis is, see, this is forming a bridge-like structure, if you can see. So this will happen here and there. So in another, so this is your commissure, obviously. This is your commissure, right? Over the commissure, it will overlap and form a bridge. Okay, that is bridging fibrosis. This will generate a fish mouth like appearance. So I'll show you one image for that. One second. See, so as you can see, it is also called buttonhole. Okay, uh, buttonhole stenosis or fish mouth stenosis. Stenosis इसलिए बोल रहे because it is not able to open completely, right? Stenosis is a property in which your valves are not able to, or any particular part of your body is not able to open properly. Insufficiency is where it is not able to close properly. Here something like that happens. So if you focus on this area, see, I'm not able to enlarge it and show it here, but see this area. This is the area where bridging fibrosis is occurring. A small bridge-like structure is formed, and this whole valve का commissure starts looking like the mouth of a fish. Okay, similarity. Right? That is why it is called fish mouth or buttonhole kind of stenosis. All right. So that will happen in rheumatic heart disease. So fissures are formed like this, fibrosis is formed like this across the commissure, creating a fish mouth. What do you call this thing? Stenosis. So let me write it down. Uh, Bridging fibrosis across valve commissures, leading to fish mouth stenosis. Right, fish mouth stenosis is also called buttonhole stenosis. Either way, another thing that will happen in rheumatic heart disease is the chordae tendineae that is present in your heart. You know what is chordae tendineae? So these chordae tendineae, they will thicken to the point that they will thicken and they will fuse sometimes. They might even shorten in length. So they'll become fatter, they will fuse together and they will become shorter, because of which heart will not be able to relax properly. Right? You know, chordae tendineae is something that will help your heart come back to its normal, what do you call, normal shape once it is done dilating or once it is done contracting. Once it is done contracting, after that, or once it is done dilating, to bring it back to normal shape, chordae tendineae are important just for normal, what do you call, structural integrity of heart as well. Your chordae tendineae play a very important role. Now if these become thick and fused and they shorten, what will happen is the volume of your heart will change, right? It will become smaller. So if I draw your, let's suppose ऐसा है, right? You have papillary muscles and you will have chordae tendineae like this, right? This is a very rough diagram obviously, okay? Please excuse the diagram. Now itna normally length hai, and because of rheumatic heart disease, let's suppose they are shortening and thickening. I'm not telling their attachment changes, okay? They will still be attached to the wall of the heart, but because they are fusing and becoming thicker and shorter, so imagine these are the fused ones, okay? And they have fused and they've become thicker. What will happen is volume of heart will change, okay? Specifically volume of ventricles will change. So if you can get the picture here, that happens because of, right, that happens because of thickened, shortened and fused chordae tendineae. Another thing that will happen is to your leaflets, specifically mitral leaflet and aortic leaflet. See, rheumatic heart disease will mostly affect those two only. Mostly it will affect mitral valve. Sometimes it will affect mitral and aortic valve. Very rarely it goes to the right side of the heart. Okay, it will rarely affect tricuspid valve and pulmonary valve. Very, very rarely. Mostly on the left heart affect hota. Calcification will occur of these fibrous leaflets. Now, as try to remember inflammation, right? As healing occurs or as repair occurs, specifically scar formation में fibrosis initially होता, fibrosis के बाद calcification होता. Once calcification is done, that is when you get a proper scar like tissue, right? Try to remember inflammation. The same thing will happen here. The leaflets which have undergone fibrosis, what will happen in them is ultimately, if the damage is not removed or damage is not treated, they will undergo calcification. And sometimes in your subendocardial places, so right beneath your endocardial layer, you'll able to see small Ashkoff nodules, okay? And they will form, they will thicken and they will form plaques, especially in the left atrium. These are called McCallum plaques. Okay, I'll show you one image for that. So McCallum plaques, they are basically subendocardial collections of Ashkoff bodies. Right. Ashkoff bodies, mostly in the left atrium. So what is happening here is, I'll repeat once again, Ashkoff bodies, the fibrinoid necrosis focal areas of fibrinoid lesions, they will start affecting your endocardium, specifically the area just under your endocardium, subendocardium, okay, of your left atrium specifically, and they will cause plaque formation. All right, that area will become thickened and they will have plaque formation. Those type of plaques are called McCallum plaques. I'll show you the image for that. One second. See, this is the gross appearance of your heart with a dilated left atrium. Okay, the McCallum plaque is the center yellow region that you can see. One second. This part, someone's audio is on. Right. So this part, as you can see, this is a McCallum plaque. Okay, this is present in the dilated atrium. Because of inflammatory damage or because of rheumatic heart disease, whatever the case, subendocardial collection of Ashkoff bodies. Initially, it will start off with endocardium being damaged by Ashkoff nodules. So you'll have small Ashkoff nodules, fibrinoid necrosis region there. From there, what will happen is that area will thicken and they will form a plaque-like structure. You'll study shortly what is a plaque and how plaques are formed and all of that in atherosclerosis. But a plaque like this will be formed, and these plaques are called McCallum plaques. Okay, so this is a McCallum plaque, right? Now, specifically talking about RHD, the effect will mostly be seen on your mitral valve. Specifically, 65 to 70% of the cases, only mitral valve involvement will be seen, and around 20 to 25% of the cases, you will see mitral plus aortic valve. All right. Very rarely you will see the other two valves. Tricuspid and pulmonary valve will be very rarely and very less frequently involved. Because you can see from here itself, you will get a very small percentage. Okay, like 5%, 10%, not more than that. Mostly the one that is affected is mitral valve. Vegetations will occur here, damage will occur here. Sometimes stenosis can occur. Sometimes fish mouth stenosis specifically can occur. Vegetation can go there. BD fibrinous vegetations like verrucae can grow there. Ashkoff bodies will be formed. They might get thickened. All of that will happen. This is all related to rheumatic heart disease. All right. I hope you understood rheumatic heart disease. This completes our rheumatic heart disease. If you want me to repeat rheumatic heart disease or any particular part, please feel free to ask. No? Okay. So, coming to the next topic, infective endocarditis. So as the name suggests, there is an infection that is affecting your endocardium, and it is causing inflammation in your endocardium. Now, infective endocarditis specifically, this will be a inflammation or infection of your valves as well as the mural part of your endocardium. So proper endocardium will get affected, and the valves that are present near the endocardium, all of them will be affected as well. Okay, for example, I'll show you how. Let's suppose I'm taking the ventricles like this. Okay, and here I have like this, and here I have like this. Okay, once again, this should be a little thicker, right? So not that thick. Now यहाँ पर let's suppose आपका mitral valve है, and here is your aorta, what do you call, the opening of your aorta, and here is your tricuspid valve, and this is the pulmonary artery taking the deoxygenated blood, right? So this is the tricuspid valve. I'll just abbreviate them as TP. This is the pulmonary vein with pulmonary what do you call, valves like this, right? The semilunar valves. This is the aorta with aortic valves, and this is the mitral valve. Now the whole area, this part is completely endocardium, right? So ये पूरा जो first layer आता, all of this is endocardium. What happens is, whenever there is an infection specifically coming to this parts, okay, it will enter systemic circulation. I'll tell you how these infections will occur, but they will start affecting endocardium and they will start affecting these valves in turn. Okay, especially on the left side of the valve, because infection is more likely to occur on the left side because it will enter systemic circulation. Systemic circulation may enter, it will first go into your left, right, then ultimately into your left. In any case, your left vertical part of the heart will get affected mostly. Right part of the heart is rarely affected. It is sometimes, but mostly on the left. Now, what happens is there are two types of mostly bacterial. Okay, these infections are mostly bacterial. Very rarely, some other infective agent will cause endocarditis. There are some other conditions as well in which endocarditis will occur, but you do not have that only infective type of endocarditis. So, I will not get into that. Now, infective endocarditis specifically is of two types. Okay, you have the acute and subacute. What is the difference? Now, acute is an emergency, not exactly an emergency, but it is a condition in which the disease will progress very fast. Okay, subacute, it will be slower. All right, that is the main difference between them, and causative agents will be as well different. But acute endocarditis will involve an organism which is highly virulent. Okay, something that is very, very dangerous, that kind of something that can spread very quickly, something that can grow very quickly, that kind of organisms will cause acute endocarditis, whereas subacute endocarditis is generally caused by organisms with low virulence. Okay, uh, I'll give you one scenario. There is one particular organism called Streptococcus viridans. Okay, this is about subacute that I'm telling. So Strep viridans, this fellow is a commensal. It is normally present in your oral cavity. Okay, Strep viridans is normally present in your oral cavity. Now let's suppose one day someone brushes very vigorously, brushing their teeth. Okay, as I told you, this fellow is present in your oral cavity. Now, whenever someone is brushing very vigorously, they might nick their gums. Okay, bleeding might occur a little bit, and what you call, as you gargle your mouth, and bleeding will eventually stop. But what can happen is this strep viridans can enter your systemic circulation. Okay, whenever there is what you call, whenever someone decides to, you know, brush really, really well today, like पूरे bacteria को मार देना है मुंह के, that kind of brushing, during that period of time, in turn, ironically, bacteria will enter your body. Okay, enter your systemic circulation. Now, normally, if it is a healthy person, this strep viridans cannot do anything because it does not have a very strong, it is not a very strong bacteria. It does not have a very strong virulence, and it will not cause any serious effects. Okay, maybe mild fever, maybe. Okay, but if the patient is immunocompromised, or if the patient has some other, let's suppose AIDS, or let's suppose the patient has neutropenia, or the patient has diabetes, or they are alcoholic, and they have nutritional deficiencies, their immunity is low, they have cancer, in all of those conditions where they have a underlying condition, what will happen is this fellow will become very, very strong. Okay, please feel free to stop me at any time if you want me to repeat any part. Okay, uh, whenever the person is susceptible in all those conditions that I told you, this fellow can cause a systemic infection where it will reach your heart and cause infective endocarditis. It can go to other places as well, but it will specifically like to stay in your heart and cause endocarditis. that is that is subacute type. Okay, that is one example through which you can get subacute. There are other organisms as well, we'll discuss them shortly, but that is one way. Okay, acute on the other hand is occurring from a very, very virulent organism. So something like staph aureus, right, staphylococcus aureus. So that's a very potent bacteria, as you know. So staphylococcus aureus, this fellow generally causes this is one of the most common causes of your infective endocarditis. And another thing is that for some person to have acute infective endocarditis, they need not have any underlying condition. It can happen to a healthy person, in the sense that their endocardium can be completely healthy. It can be just a normal person who is completely healthy, and when this bacteria is entering, there is a chance that it can go into your heart and cause what you call infective endocarditis. All right. So these are the two main causative agents. For subacute, there are a few more causative agents. They come under HACEK group. Okay, so I'll put it like this: HACEK. Okay, so these are all gram-negative bacteria. They are generally present in your oral cavity. They live as commensals. Okay, but whenever someone's immunity is low or they have some other predisposing condition, in that scenario, these people will cause a problem. So these will stand for Haemophilus, Actinobacillus. Some people Agricobacter भी लिखते हैं इसको. Cardiobacterium, Aikinella, and Kingella. All of these are gram-negative organisms or gram-negative bacteria. These are oral commensals. Okay, all of these are oral commensals. So these are all oral commensals, meaning they will be normally present in your oral cavity, just like strep But when someone is, damaging their, it can be when someone is brushing, or it can be periodontal, like someone is getting their, like they are going to the dentist and they are getting things cleaned and things like that. In those conditions as well, maybe the dentist nicked something, because of any reason that bacteria from your mouth is entering systemic circulation, and coupled with a low immunity or some other predisposed condition, in that way what will happen is these fellows will cause endocarditis. Okay, I hope you are following along till now. Do you want me to repeat any part, or are you guys understanding what is going on till now? Acute and subacute, what is happening and what are the common causes? समझ में आ रहा है या I'm just blabbering around?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
क्या हुआ ऐसे सैड यस सर के को? दोपहर में पैथोलॉजी जरा खाना हजम होने के बाद अच्छा नहीं है नहीं.
सर ये ओरल commensals क्या है सर?
Oral commensals are organisms that are normally present in your now अपना intestinal flora रहता ना, in your intestines you have bacteria that will help in digestion. The same way in your mouth as well, there will be several bacteria present. They are commensals. They will not cause damage to you. Okay, commensal is something that is basically, अच्छा, I'll explain it to you this way. Symbiotes मालूम है क्या है?
Useful
Symbiotes is
bacteria.
something, yeah, it's useful bacteria. It so basically inhabiting inside a human, that symbiote will have what do you call? So let me put it this way: symbiote रहा तो bacteria is having some positive effect and human is having positive effect, right? Parasite रहा तो bacteria or the pathogen is having a positive effect while the human is getting damaged. Commensal is something where bacteria is having a positive effect, but the human has no effect, zero effect. Okay, it is just that that commensal is living inside your mouth. That's it. It will not do any harm. It will not do anything good. It will have its own benefit where it is taking a little bit of your energy, a little bit of your food, but like negligible amount. For your bacteria, like 1 grain of rice for you, that will be like 100-200 days worth of food for bacteria. All right, so that kind of thing. The bacteria will live. Now normally these people cannot cause any damage, but in case the person is having a low immunity or all the conditions that I told you, and in those conditions this fellow is entering blood, that is when it can cause systemic problems, specifically endocarditis. Okay, I hope that explained your doubt, answered your doubt.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now coming to predisposing conditions, there are three main factors which will predispose to development of infective endocarditis. Okay, so let me just put it this way. Predisposing conditions will be those conditions which will make a person more susceptible to that kind of damage or that kind of disease. Okay, so the first one will be conditions leading to bacteremia or septicemia or pyemia and pyemia जानना ठीक है so pus causing bacteria and all of that, those are present in your blood. Now, bacteremia, septicemia. See, there is a difference between bacteremia and septicemia. Bacteremia is only a small cluster of bacteria present inside your blood. Septicemia is a condition in which a whole colony, a lot of bacteria present inside your blood, and they are wreaking havoc around your body, and they are causing multiple organ damage. That is septicemia. Okay, that is the main difference between bacteremia and septicemia. The number is much bigger, and sometimes the causative organism is much more dangerous as well, to put it one way. All right, so all the conditions that can cause bacteremia, septicemia or pyemia, so those conditions will basically include, as I told you, bacteria will gain entrance through some periodontal infections. So let's suppose someone is getting some oral examination done, or they have a periodontal infection, maybe a decaying tooth or something or the other, where they are having some mouth problems. All right, or it can be a trauma through vigorous brushing, as I just told you, tooth extraction mein ho sakta, or it can be a genitourinary tract infection, like from catheterization, from cystoscopy, from obstetric procedures, like agar delivery kar rahe ya abortions hoye ya what do you call GIT infections maybe, or biliary tract infections, all of these infections, or skin infections, abscesses, pneumonia, all of these conditions in which bacteria can enter your blood, all of these will predispose the patient to get endocarditis, because these bacteria will have, see, if it is entering blood, obviously it will go to your heart at one point or the other, because in 1 minute all of your blood will pass through your heart anyway, right? 5 liters will go through your heart. You have only 5 liters of blood, around 5 liters, right? So they will pass through your, that amount will pass through your heart in 1 minute anyway. So if that bacteria enters your blood, it only has to wait for 1 minute till it can enter your heart. Once it is entering your heart, it can go anywhere. It can go and attach to your any wall of your heart, anywhere, right? Which will predispose the patient to endocarditis, meaning they have more risk of developing endocarditis. Okay, I hope you samajh mein aaya those conditions. So any infective conditions in which bacteria can come into your blood, okay, to put it simply. Then underlying heart disease. So if the patient already has a heart disease, specifically, let's suppose they have atherosclerosis, or they have any particular heart disease, especially valvular diseases. Okay? Previously they had valvular disease. In those conditions, they'll mostly have subacute type rather than acute type. As I told you, acute will mostly occur in healthy people in healthy hearts. Subacute is the one that you will see in what you call people who already had some problem. All right. And the third one will be impaired host defenses. So if the patient's host defense, the immunity is not proper, right? If the immunity is not proper, even one chiller bacteria that is coming inside your body. See, normally in subacute as well, strep viridans, as I told you, or all the HASEC bacteria, they are very mild bacteria. Normally they should not cause any problem, because your macrophages will take care of them. But if the immunity is low, even those chiller fellows will come and what do you call, cause infection and damage to your body. All right, so that is when immunity is low, when host's immune or defense system is impaired. What are the pathological changes? Coming to pathological changes that will occur in your changes in infective endocarditis. Okay, I'll abbreviate it as IE. So initially the bacteria will enter your blood, it will roam around nicely, sightseeing karta, uske baad it will come and lodge inside your heart. Okay. Specifically, if your heart valve is damaged initially, that is a nice attractive site. Why? What happens is, when, so try to remember inflammation. Let's suppose I am taking the left atrium here. Okay. So let's suppose this is your left atrium and here is your aorta going like this. Okay. For now, we'll eliminate the aorta. Okay, just for the sake of convenience, we'll eliminate aorta. Once again, I'll just take your attendance. We have like only 10 minutes left, so might as well take your attendance. Hanji, Anjali, Anusha, Shanti, Maria, Rusia, Sanjay, Yajik, Vamshi, Vandana. 9 people. Yeah. So I'll repeat once. Anjali, Anusha, Shanti, Maria, Rusia, Sanjay, Yajik, Vamshi, Vandana. इतनी है ना, राइट? रोज इतने तो आ रहे, बाद में समझ में नहीं आया तो किसको जाते रोते हुए बोल के. आई एम नॉट श्योर इवन आई विल बी देयर फॉर लॉन्ग टाइम हियर. So well, anyway, good luck to them. So coming to your left atrium, so let's suppose this is your left atrium. All right, now near the valve, specifically in this part, what will happen is, so this is your endocardium now, right? So let me draw endocardium in purple. Let's suppose this is your endocardium, okay? The innermost layer in your heart, right? Now in this layer, what will happen is, initially, let's suppose there is some kind of damage. So subacute type specifically, there is already some kind of damage in the valve, and this damage will in turn cause inflammation. There will be inflammatory changes, and you will be able to see a small plaque that might be present here, especially atheroma kind. Okay. So this might already be present. I am telling this is a condition in which the patient already has some problem. Okay. So whenever this fellow is present, it will have thrombocytes, all of that present here. This is very sticky in nature. Okay, this yellow portion that I drew is very sticky in nature. Whenever there is a bacteria coming like this, let's suppose this bacteria is traveling through your blood. This fellow, once it comes across here, it will get stuck on this. All right, and it will take advantage of this damage. It will try to penetrate into the damaged area. It will go into the inflammatory area. It will lodge itself inside the endocardium. So let's suppose it has lodged itself inside the endocardium, and it will start more inflammatory damage. So initially there was some person who already had some kind of inflammatory damage and that was resolved, but some scar tissue or something was present there. This bacteria will try to attack that weak spot. Okay, and what will happen is, from here more inflammation will occur. So let me draw inflammation like this. So edema will take place, more inflammatory reaction will occur, cytokines, the whole inflammatory reaction will occur, and what will happen is it will spread, in the sense that now surrounding structures will also get affected. See, यहाँ पर अपने को बाजू कौन मिलते हैं? यहाँ पर mitral valve रहता ना? That fellow will also start getting affected. Okay, that is one way through which your endocarditis can occur, specifically subacute endocarditis, because यहाँ पर there is already a problem in which the bacteria is coming and causing more problem. All right, so if I just tell you the pathogenesis, how it occurs, once again you will understand a little better कैसा हो रहा. ठीक है, so it starts off with the bacteria. Let's suppose this is the bacteria. This fellow is coming into your blood and enters your damaged endocardium. Okay, so it is entering damaged endocardium. See, progression will be similar in a way, because कैसा बोलना अब, see यहाँ पर I am talking about subacute. ठीक है, the endocardium is already damaged, patient already had some problem because of which they became more susceptible or they were predisposed to bacteria being attacked. But if the bacteria is very virulent and very powerful, in the case of acute, let's suppose this bacteria itself will cause this damage of endocardium. Okay, either way endocardium में damage हो रहा है, either previous damage है or that bacteria itself is causing damage. Okay, I hope you are understanding the logic here. In subacute, there is already damage to the heart, which the bacteria is exploiting. Bacteria is taking advantage of that damage. All right. Or in acute type, what will happen is the bacteria is so strong that that fellow itself is coming and causing damage. Okay. Either way, there is damage to your endocardium. When there is damage to your endocardium, inflammatory reaction will occur. Platelets will rush to that place. When there is damage, bleeding will occur, and when there is bleeding, platelets has to come, right? So platelets will come. Platelets and fibrin, both of them will start getting deposited. Okay, trying to plug that hole, right? Whenever there is what you call a small leak in your blood vessel, what will happen is your thrombocytes and your fibrin come and clot formation will basically will occur. The clotting cascade will come into picture. Last year पढ़े थे ना physiology में clotting cascade. That will happen. Platelets will come into picture and they will try to close the hole, or they will try to close the bleeding. In this space, because there is bacteria, your cells will respond by secreting a few cytokines, which in turn will cause WBC to enter the area. Okay, WBC enter करके this fellow in turn will cause neutrophils. It will call other fellows as well, other what you call inflammatory cells. It will cause monocytes to come. It will cause neutrophils to come. It will cause lymphocytes to come. All of your immune system cells are coming here now. Okay. Now, whenever this clump-like structure is formed, what will happen is if the bacteria is strong enough. Now let me draw that area again. Let's suppose this is the left atrium part. Now we started off with damaged endocardium. So let's suppose there was damage here like this. Okay, let's suppose there is a little bit of damage here like this. Bacteria is coming here, and let's suppose we draw your platelets like this. Platelets are coming like this, and this is your fibrin. Okay, let's suppose this orange structure is your fibrin. Okay, they are coming and trying to close that hole from vertical, from blood entering to this area, and basically to cover up that damage. Now, whenever there is this bacteria also, so let's suppose this is your bacteria. Hello, yeah, bacteria suppose. That fellow is coming and attacking into your endocardium. Because this fellow is present, the surrounding cells will start secreting cytokines. A proper inflammatory reaction is mounted. Whenever there is an inflammatory reaction, our WBCs have to come. When WBC is coming, WBC in turn will not alone come. It will call other helpers as well. So it will cause, so if there is a, let's suppose there is a fire in some building in your city, what will happen? Police will rush there, ambulance will rush there, fire brigade will rush there, paramedics will rush there, all of that will happen, right? So WBC alone will not go. It will call neutrophils, it will call monocytes, it will cause lymphocytes. All of these people will start rushing, all of these vertical cells will start rushing to this place, and what happens is a small area of vegetation will be formed. So bacteria, if it is strong enough, this fellow will start dividing here now. Okay, it will use this area, and sometimes यहाँ पर it is a proper war zone where WBC is fighting your bacteria. At the same time, bacteria is trying to divide. All of that is happening. During this period of time, what will happen is a plaque-like structure will be formed. Okay. Now this, if it is large enough, it will start affecting your valves as well. Now, if you can see, this area of your heart will not work properly, right? This much area that is damaged, the one that I'm highlighting in yellow, if you can see, that area will not work properly, and especially any adjoining areas, the area that is present beside them, if they are getting affected, they will not work properly. So heart function will decline, right? These plaque materials might break off as well. Small parts of this plaque might break off as well, simply because of the pressure of the blood, and they might start traveling elsewhere, and these plaques in turn will, guess what, have bacteria inside them, and bacteria will go to other places and proliferate this as well. So that is how infective endocarditis occurs, and endocarditis vertical proliferates into other infections. Okay, I hope you understood what is going on in infective endocarditis. I'll explain a little bit more in tomorrow's class. All right, we have less than 1 minute left. I hope you understood till this part. Okay.
Thank you, sir.